27. Lab practical should be easy. I'll go over both of those things. 20th. So we will do respiration, which is the next thing, I think, unless I'm totally losing my mind. So we'll begin respiration on the 20th, yeah. We'll continue it on the 3rd, and then probably jump into digestion on the 5th. And then spring break happens, right? So you'll go into spring break having to finish the respiration and about half digestion. So when you get bored, you can study stuff in between cake stands. So let's finish this thing. Okay. So I'm not going to get too far in the respiratory chapter next time, probably halfway through, probably to the anatomy part. This is all really simple. Respiratory anatomy is so simple compared to cardio. Okay, let's back up one. So here's the thing we did last time, Amy. Let's make some notes on it. So, I don't know what the purpose of these serve in any textbook except to scare people. What's happening? There's some weird things going on there. Excuse me. What the heck? Hang on 2 seconds. Whoa, that's freaky. Okay. That is, I've never seen that before. I opened it while it was already open. That's weird. Okay, is this where we were? No idea. Back up again, back, start. So now we're 2 minutes late. Mark your fingers. Did it work? No, okay, let's try that again. Last time, we did first line and second line. First line was stupid. So what was the first line? I mean, come on. Literally 1 minute, you're done studying that. Don't miss that stuff. It's too simple. One flashcard. Done with that. Then we got the second line. Both of these are still right? Innate. One with it, non-specific. It's got all the stuff here we need. I think I got all this on my list when we first did it, but this should be it. Remember, phagocytosis. We need the phases of it. Remember the guy, the bugs, opsonization, pull it in, digest it, spit it out the back end. We're going to do that almost first thing in here. I don't know where it is, but we're going to revisit that phagocytosis idea. But we're going to rename all those parts. There's phagocytosis. We've seen it. Been there, done that. Got it. NK cells. Been there, done that. We don't really know much about them. Okay, fine. We know they're non-specific though. Double check. Inflammation. Itis. Large. Leaky. Right? 4 cardinal signs. Shoulder, calorie tumor. Inflammatory mediators, right? So, a few things going on there with inflammation. Just remember the highlights. I mean, it says it nicely there, but that's not going to work for the test at all. Interferons, IFNs, of course. Wait, IFNs. That's a different thing. Viral problem here, right? They're antivirals. Come back. Interferons, we told the story. They save the neighbors, not themselves. And then we got these 20 complement proteins in this complement. What do we call it? Complement system? I don't know what we call it in your book. Complement system, usually what I call it, is 20 proteins. Blood-borne proteins, yeah. They can do 3 big things. Lipolysis, enhanced phagocytosis, and enhanced inflammation. We did all that last time. It's just saying it all crunched up in one little box. That's like the minimal to know coming in. Remember, anything in this chapter, including all that, will be A, B, C, D questions, multiple choice. I don't know, you guys, that was the worst part for you guys last time for some strange reason. So I'm a little worried about that. I know it gets studied last, but it's ABC. You don't have to actually spell any of these words, come up with the names of them, so study it that way. The fever we're going to do today, but it ties very, very well into the next thing. So does this phagocytosis thing. So we're going to tie it all together here in another big drawing. Remember, we got a third line coming. That's going to take the rest of today to do. So here it comes. So this is the third line. This is the lymphocyte story, who are not NK lymphocytes. The T cell story, lymphocytes. Remind yourself of that all the time. Okay, so this is extremely specific. Not born with it, so you must acquire this somehow. We're going to look at immunity acquisition coming up pretty soon here too. But the main talk here is what do B cells and T cells do. There's a whole bunch that they do. Tell me generally what a B cell does. It's called the humoral, right? Response in which it dumps out antibody proteins. So there's half of it today. It's studying the humoral response. And the T cells do what? They're snitchers. They do the cell mediation thing. They do not make antibodies. They do other things. We'll see today. Some of them manage, like helper T. Some of them do other things. So we'll see in a little bit. Okay, that's the story. We're not talking NKs because they're strangely non-specific. Here we go. So check. What did he do? It doesn't really say anything at all important. It just sets it up and you don't even care. There's what we just went over, humoral, antibody mediated, right? Okay. B cells. Right, and if you don't remember the combo there, B cells, humoral, antibody, they're always a triad. And then cellular immunity, cell mediated, that's T cell business. Okay. We've seen it before, but we'll make sure we're going to dive far into the details this time. Okay, again, I see humoral, I see antibody. What am I missing? B cells. Right, there it is. I just put the B. Yeah, it's just saying the same thing. None of this really is important. We're going to learn it by doing it. We learn sentences like that, but it means nothing. It means nothing. Okay, cell mediation. I better see who here. T's. Okay, I just wrote it. That's it. That's the chapter. It repeats it just so we get the point, but this is it. T cells, B cells, and this immunity thing. Extremely specific. Okay, we need to know antigen again. We haven't really done it justice yet. I've said ID tag. We need to get away from that. It is an ID tag, but it's usually foreign. So we need to come up with a definition for an antigen real quick. That's really good, and it's super hard. So remember antigen AG. Yeah, substances that can mobilize the death, whatever. Let's make that better. So let's start with the word foreign. Right? Antigens are foreign objects. But sometimes your own cells are attacked, right? So what can we say instead of just foreign? How do you spell foreign, by the way?
That's close
enough, right? Okay. So it doesn't have to actually be foreign. It's just perceived. Did I spell perceived? Boom! Do we get it? It's perceived as foreign. Do we understand what that means? It doesn't actually have to be foreign. Tell me how many things in the universe, and we'll start making a list in a minute, could be perceived as foreign. Start thinking. How many things in the universe? If I stuck a pencil in my face, would that be perceived as foreign?
Yes.
Of course. So would pollen and bacteria, and how about an infinite number of things you can't imagine? There's an infinite number of antigens in the universe. You're telling me that we're going to have an ability to defend ourselves against anything out there that we haven't even seen before? Yep, that's what I'm telling you. That's how good the system is. If the choices of perceived as foreign, there's an infinite possibility, we better have an infinitely variable response. And we will. And you'll hear me say this, infinitely variable, several times. This is a super system. If aliens came down tomorrow with antigens all over them that no human has ever seen, we would all be able to make antibodies against it immediately. Those movies are silly. We have no problem, aliens. They'll make antibodies against it. Okay, so I got perceived as foreign. We need to go further. Now we know it could be anything that's perceived as foreign and provokes an immune response. That's the second part. If it doesn't provoke an immune response, even if it's foreign, it's still not an antigen. It has to do both, and conjunction, two parts. something not only foreign, but potentially perceived as foreign by the body, even though it may not be. And provokes an immune response, meaning you make antibodies against it. This is what an antigen is. If you don't make an antibody against it, if you don't have a response to it, it's not an antigen. So we're getting closer. We're going to figure it out a little bit better here too. An antigen, something perceived as foreign, that provokes an immune response. It's usually large, like a large protein or a large sugar. It's usually not a fat or a nucleic acid for that matter. All right, that's an extra part. What's an antigen? Some substance that's perceived as foreign. It's usually a big molecule, like a protein, big sugar, and it also provokes an immune response. Small, teeny tiny things don't actually usually act as antigens. Those are called haptens, and I'm not even going to go there. So that's why I wanted the large thing. Okay, think of an object like a bacterium. There's a bacterium. That's not an antigen. It's all the little pieces, parts that are on that bacterium. You could have a tail. There's a foreign object. So is that thing. So are these little lump things. So are this little twisty things it's got in front. All those are foreign objects. Each one could be an antigen. How many antigens could be on that entire bacterium? Hundreds. There could be hundreds of foreign objects on that bacterium, not just the thing itself. Or a virus, or a fungus, or whatever thing you're thinking of, or a piece of pollen, or peanut oil to somebody. Could kill you. It's weird. Pollen shouldn't harm you. It's just plant sperm. Some people, they provoke an immune response from them, and they get this weird thing called an allergy attack. So this is the story here. We have to have foreign objects, or something that appears to be foreign, usually a large molecule, protein or sugar-based, not usually a fat, not usually a nucleic acid. And it provokes an immune response, meaning you have B cells and T cells get all excited about it. Okay, it's a long time to do that. I want to make sure we got it. We know what it is and what it's not. At this point, it could be lots and lots and lots and lots of things, an infinite number of things that we can't even think of out there. It could be antigens. But we have a system that can fix this. I don't want to do it happens. I might ask about it, but I'm not going to count it. Again, look, too small. That's the point. They're too small, so they're not antigens. You probably won't ever hear about them in the rest of your life. You might. Send me an email if you do. And I'll talk about them more. Okay, here's where we're going to have some crossover into several different things. So I need a picture. So here's our first picture. Oh boy, we're going to do lots of pictures today. So let's start with this one. I want to do this guy, APC. I don't think I've done that before, have I? I might have. Did I do that? Anyone who's studying? Did I do APCs yet? No. Okay, let's do it. They're macrophages. They don't just eat. So I think I can fit it. Actually, no, it's not fit it anyway. Let's use paper. All right, here we go. Pac-Man fever. There's a phagocyte. Neutrophil probably. Who cares? But I want to make him a macrophage. But I'm going to make him an APC macrophage. An antigen presenter. Antigen presenting cell, APC. An antigen presenting macrophage. So let's go through these phases of phagocytosis, and then talk about a fever, and then talk about T cells all at the same time in the same picture. There's lots of stuff coming here. There's a phagocyte. Here's some bacteria. He wants to eat them. We know there's antigens all over it. Thousands of them, potentially. He knows they're foreign because that's his job. And he's trying to eat them, but they're going to slip out of his mouth here. What can I do to make them more edible? You can opsonize them, right? What are the two opsonyms we talk about in this class? Could be complement protein C3b, or it could be a straight up antibody. We're going to find out at the end of today an antibody acts as an opsonym. I'll draw it and I'll show it. We'll see this at the end today. We'll see it at the beginning. It goes round and round. If they're opsonized, I can grab them better. I can do something called ingestion, right? And what did I make? Oh, why does it keep doing this? What do I make? Who remembers? Who's studying? Base is called ingestion. What's the structure called? Not yet. It's just a phagosome right now. And now it's just a phagosome in the body. I will merge it though with a lysosome. And I'll merge them together. I can do digestion. And this is now called a phagolysosome. We've already done this. Some have studied, most haven't. Fill in the P's if you don't know. What do we do at the end? We took the parts, and spit it out the back. They were called what?
Residual.
Residual parts or something like that. That's what to look for is residual parts. Okay. Very simple concept. I can ask lots of easy questions about that. But APCs do this and something else. So what am I spitting out of the back end there? What are these things? What are they though? Yeah, they're pieces of that dead bug, right? I mean, they're antigens. That's what the point is. It's spitting out antigens. Instead of just spitting them out, what if there were a way I could grab them and wave them around in the air and present them? Antigen presenting cell. Not only do I eat it, but I show off what I ate. Why would I do this? Who's looking for this? Well, if you're driving down by Shipley's Donuts in the morning, there might be a guy jumping around at the sign, right? Say, look over here. And I bet you did. Look at him. Who's the guy that's you looking at the guy at the Shipley Donut sign? There's the Shipley Donut sign guy flipping it around in the air. Here's my antigen. Look what I found. Look what I found. Look what I found. Who's listening for this? Who's the gossipers? The T cells. Which one especially? Helper T's. They're waiting for dirty laundry. They're going to go talk about it to as many people as they can tell about it. That's their job. They're snitches. Someone's got to show them something to go talk about them. So APC does this by presenting antigens, and the T cell says, okay, yeah, there's an antigen. Who should we go tell? Who should you go tell? There's a boatload of Chinese coming on with guns and bombs. Who should you go tell? Everybody. Everybody. Don't just tell your friends on Facebook the Chinese are here. Everybody. Go tell them all. So let's do that. Let's tell everybody. Let's send a message up here. Let's send a message over here. They're snitches. Let's send a message over here. Let's send a message over here. What do snitches do? Snitch. They talk. They talk. They talk. I used to think they were called talker cells. Was that what the T meant? It's not. What does it mean? Thymus. Thymus. We'll get there in a minute. Don't forget. Thymus. T cell, helper T, also known as a CD4 cell. We'll get there in a minute. That's might be new to some of you. CD4. That's the new fancy term for them. So the helper T's is CD4s. We'll do that later, but hey, we're doing it all right now. What are those things he's sending out? Well, they're messages that are going to go mainly talking to other white cells. So if I were going to construct a word called in between whites, what would I think of? What's in between? Inter. What's the word for white? Interleukins. Yeah, I'm going to send out some interleukins. What is an interleukin? White in between whites. It's communication. Substances. There's a whole bunch of these. Some of them are called, I guess the big word for these is cytokine. That's the big umbrella word. That's what they're squirting out is cytokines. One of the big, huge group of cytokines is interleukin. Interleukin 1, interleukin 2, you'll see it as IL-1, IL-2 in the pictures. That's how he talks. T cells don't have language. They communicate chemically, so they chemically communicate through cytokines, like interleukins. Those cytokines go through the body and talk to other cells. We're keeping this extremely simple, but let's show you all the places we could go. I could go to a place we're pretty familiar with. Where's that? Hypothalamus, pituitary, right? I could send cytokines and interleukins up to the hypothalamus, and if the hypothalamus gets a taste of those, it increases body temp. We call that a fever, right? There's the fever response. It's non-specific, but this is how a fever can be turned on. There are other ways too. A helper T can send a message to the brain, just turn up the heat. There's reasons for that. We'll learn about those reasons in micro if you want to get into that story. Who else would you tell? Well, in between whites, other white cells, like who? Well, like macrophages. Tells them go do what? Go eat. Go do phagocytosis. Tells them what to look for. If you see this antigen on someone, go eat him. He tells B cells to do what? Do their humoral response, right? Crank out antibodies. Guess what those antibodies are designed against? Guess what? They're designed against those antigens, right? Specifically, I'm showing you an antigen. Make me an antibody against it specifically. Once I show you, though, don't do it ahead of time. Remember, you got to be shown antigens here. All this story, you're going to hear me say that a bunch. None of these cells get turned on unless there's an antigen around. There's got to be some antigen to say, warning, warning, do something. And then you got to provoke an immune response. You could tell TC cells, a different type of T cell, cytotoxic T, so seeing it, CD8s. You can tell them to do murder. I'll see them in a minute, what they will do officially. But they go kill anybody with that antigen on them. If you show a TC cell that antigen, they'll go around and look. Anybody that's got that antigen hanging off of them, prepared to die. Okay, so this is an overview. Once we get through some of these slides, this will make a lot more sense. This is a super easy way to remember how these are intertwined. Okay, there's actually a lot of stuff on there. We're going to add to that, of course. We need to talk about the murder. We need to talk about the B cell thing. We'll talk about helper T's bit. There you go. This is how everyone else gets the news. Usually an APC tells them about it. And then the B cells and T cells take over from there. That's why they come in later. Okay, so there's our main story. Let's do this next one from the story. Even though we know it, so I'm going to erase this picture. This picture is, by the way, at the end of your notes somewhere. There's 2 or 3 pictures like it at the end of your notes somewhere. Okay, so let's do this here. We know where blood cells come from, including all the lymphocytes. Where do they come from? Bone marrow. Should be in the red marrow up here, but hey, whatever. They come in here. So all of them do, right? Yeah. Stem cells, remember the story? Stem cells inside the marrow. Okay, we remember this. I can send them signals to push them to become this cell or this cell or this cell. That's fine. We don't need to know all that again. But at some point we need to talk about the B's and the T's. So here it is. We're all lymphocytes. All B's, all T's, all NKs for that matter, but we're skipping them because they're weird. All B's, all T's are born as from stem cells in the bone marrow. That's fine. That's what happens next. Okay? So what we have to do is make them, and you can see the word here, I think. We have to make them immunocompetent, educated. They have to grow up. Lymphocytes who have not been trained cannot do anything. And this is a really rough world here in the body if you're a lymphocyte. If you're a lymphocyte, if you don't get trained, you get killed. So it's educated or dead. That's what types of lymphocytes you've got in your cell, in your body. Is really, really educated lymphocytes or dead ones. If they're standing in line at the unemployment line, they're dead. They're going to be killed that day if they don't find a job now. So we'll hear this. It's a weird system, but that is the way it is. We'll draw a picture in a minute. But the word is immunocompetency. We need to make them recognize a antigen, right? A specific one. You see it, I'll train you. If there's another antigen, I gotta train someone else. If there's a third antigen, I need a third lymphocyte, and so on and so on. Extremely specific. Okay, so here's our little picture. B cells stay in the bone. I used to think of it bone cell. It doesn't, but you can do that. B cells get trained in the bone. They're born in the bone. They stay at home. They go to the local community college or the local school. They don't move out of town. They get trained at home. What do B cells get trained to do? Make antibodies, right? So they get trained to make stuff. Eventually, that's B cells. They're born in the stem cell, in the marrow. They stay there. They're trained to make an antibody. If they're not trained, they're killed. T cells do something different. T cells leave town. And they go to the, I don't know how to draw one, thymus. Not the thyroid, the thymus gland. That's why they're called T cells, because they get trained in the thymus under the influence of thymosins, hormones from the thymus gland. So we've said that a long time ago. There are some hormones called thymosins from the thymus gland that helps to mature T cells, meaning train them. T cells get trained in the thymus university. They leave town to go to school. The B cells got trained at home just fine. B cells got trained to do something. They got trained to make something, make antibodies. T cells get trained to be what? Managers. Yeah, some of them go mad and start killing people, but they're trained to be managers. They're not trained to make stuff. Right? This is it. Eventually, and just to keep it super simple, eventually we'll have a family reunion back in the lymph nodes. Remember this? We had everybody come together. That's some terrible looking lymph nodes there. Yeah, we come back in the lymph node. B cells out here, T's and B's and macros here in the center. Just to remember that. Looks ugly, but we looked at this, seems like a year ago. Yeah, we meet up back in the lymph node with other macrophages too. This is the story of where these lymphocytes come from. We already knew most of that. I'm just making sure we know it. And that new word, immunocompetent. Okay, all cells are still born in the bone marrow. B cells stay there to be trained, immunocompetent, trained. When they are trained, they're trained to make antibodies. If they're not trained, they're killed. T cells leave town, they go to the thymus gland, and under the influence of thymosins, they're trained to become managers, not antibody makers. They'll get back together in the lymph nodes where they'll do their job. You do one thing, I'll do another thing. I'll get the job done. This is the story. Okay, how do they get chosen? Well, it's going to be called clonal selection. We'll do that in a second. We have to pick somebody. We have to hire somebody to do the job. There's going to be some rules. One guy gets the job. Everybody else, all dead. Okay, so there it is, clonal selection. So this is how we're going to pick what we call our Cinderella. That's what I'm going to call it. This is the Cinderella story. I don't really like these slides. I don't really like the slides. I mean, they're okay. Everything on here is true. I just don't like their layout. I put them here for you. On this, I would say, this is cool, man. But you won't care. That's what I'll say. I'm not going to ask you about it. If you understand genetics, which most people don't, if you've taken a genetics class, that is super interesting. But we're not going to do it, so I'll say, that's cool, man. But we're not doing it. Okay, APC's been there, done that, right? Here's a picture. Got a t-shirt. Okay? Beautiful. A few more response. I should see B cell. I should see antibody. Yep. We got it. We got the point. We just need to watch it happen now. So we need to see the choosing happen. We need to see the clonal selection go on. Let's pick Cinderella. Let's get her to work. It's going to look like this, but again, I don't like it. So let's pretty picture it. I don't have a slide around here. I'm just going to go back to a blank place. Let's draw a clonal selection. Yeah, there's a picture in your notes. There's thousands of them online. Clonal selection. Cinderella story. Let's see if I can find the number just so it sticks in your head. Although I haven't seen it yet, which is kind of strange. Okay, interesting. 100 million is what I'm looking for. Tell me about red cells real quick. How long does a red cell last? Yeah, about 2 or 3 months, right? 3 or 4 months maybe. We learned about this, and I wanted you to know that because of this reason. 100 million made daily. That's white cells, lymphocytes. 100 million of them you make every day. They only last a little bit, a couple days, and then they're done. Most of them will not get a job. So what will you do with most of those 100 million cells? You're going to kill almost all of them tonight. And then you're going to make 100 million more tomorrow. And you kill most of those. And then you make 100 million more the next day. It seems so inefficient. But this is the way it is. A red cell comes around and lasts for 2 or 3 months. 4 months maybe. These last a day or two. And then we'll make millions and millions. It takes so much energy. But we do it. This is how it's done. So let's talk about how to hire someone and what happens if you don't get hired. We already know. We're going to kill you, but hey, we'll make more tomorrow, so see ya. I'm going to draw a bone here. I'm going to make it a little fatter than normal so I can fit some things in here, but here's our cartoon bone. I'm going to show you this for B cells. But the note you're going to make is T cells do the same thing. But I don't want to show it twice. It's the same way. It's selection. Either picking a B or a T. Do the same thing. Except T cells won't make antibodies. There'll be a couple of differences like that. Clonal selection. I'm going to show it for Bs. It's the same for Ts. What we need now is we need to draw 100 million cells in here. I'll do like 5. How about that? So start drawing some cells with little notches. Put a B to remind yourself it's a B cell. If I can actually write that small on here. If you're not creative, just copy me. Make them with different notches. Usually about 5. I get tired of doing it. There you go. How many did I make? 100 million. What do I need to turn any of these on? No. That's the complement system. This is specific now. This is lymphocytes. How do I turn on lymphocytes? Who? Nope. Well, so, okay, keep going with that thought. Okay, an APC doing what? Showing a what? Antigen. Antigen. That's the point. I need an antigen. I do not do any of this until I find an antigen. That's the point of the entire pathway. Non-specific stuff, you don't need antigens for. You do that no matter what it is. This is super specific. You must find an antigen. What's an antigen? A large molecule, usually a protein or a sugar, perceived as foreign. That provokes an immune response. Here we go. Check, check, check. There's a foreign object. It's big, and it's about to provoke an immune response. We're going to call that an antigen. That's the only way you turn on a B cell or a T cell. They don't turn themselves on. NKs do. That's what makes them weird. They're not antigen dependent. These are. They won't do anything until they find an antigen. Okay, so there's my antigen. I'm going to assume that's the only antigen we found that day. That would totally not be true. You'd probably encounter thousands and thousands of antigens on a daily basis. Most of them you encounter when you're a kid, and you still have leftovers from that event. So what we're going to do now is clonal selection. First part is select. That's what we need to do. We need to choose how many of these cells do we need to pick? One. That's the whole point. One cell out of these 100 million. Only one will be turned on. Super specific. Who is it? Well, play the Cinderella game. There's the slipper. There's the feet. How about you, lady? Are you Cinderella? Nope. What happens to you? Die. It's a cruel world. What's that called when a cell kills itself? You can say it like that. You can do a silent. You can go apoptosis also. It's easier to spell if you say apoptosis, but it sounds weird to me. But it's acceptable. Cell suicide, apoptosis. It's not necrosis. That's drop a bowling ball on your foot. That's not natural. Apoptosis is scheduled cell suicide. For lymphocytes, it's a regular event. If you ain't Cinderella, die. And I'm not going to kill you. You kill yourself. You feel so bad. Lady, are you Cinderella? Nope. Die. How about you? You're close, but nope. Die. Die. There she is. The only one out of millions of different potential cells. You pick one. Clonal selection. There's my selection part. I select a B cell. I do not select thousands of them. Single B cell is chosen. Cinderella only. Now that I've found Cinderella, let's clone her. Since I know her foot fits on all the slippers, or the slippers fit on her foot every time, however you want to think about it, let's just make a bunch of her instead of looking for more Cinderellas. I already found the perfect Cinderella. Let's just clone her now that I've selected her. Right? So do it this way. Show a couple arrows go that way, but more arrows will come out this way. Something like that. And then put a word across it, sprawl it across. It's the weirdest word, but differentiation. What's clone mean? Make everything the same. I don't know who came up with this, but this word, it looks like it's a totally wrong word. Because it says different in it, but I don't get it still to this day. Why that would be used. We're going to make different piles of cells here. Some on that side, a lot more on that side. That's the difference. But they're all the same B cell. So what you can do is even just ignore the word differentiation for now. Just put a bunch of Cinderellas that all look exactly the same. And then put a few Cinderellas over here. That's what they mean by differentiation. It's two different piles. A big pile of Cinderellas and a little pile of Cinderellas. But they're all exactly the same clone. They're all copies. That's all a clone is.